Have you ever really thought about what's going on in the ground right under our feet? I mean, it's not just dirt, right? It's this bustling, totally invisible world. And today, we're going to zoom in and take a microscopic look at how the fertilizers we use are changing everything for the life down there.
Okay, so our guide on this deep dive is a really fascinating 2024 study by Elif Yaganoglu and Adil Aydin. They published their work in the Turkish Journal of Agriculture and Forestry, and what they did was pretty simple. They set out to see what actually happens to all that life in the soil when we add different kinds of fertilizers.
So first, let's just back up a second and ask a really basic question. What even makes soil alive? Because it's definitely not just some stuff to hold plant roots. It is a crazy complex living ecosystem, and it's just teeming with billions and billions of microorganisms that are absolutely essential for all of us up here on the surface.
And right away, we run into a problem. We need modern farming to produce huge amounts of food. I mean, there's a lot of people to feed. But the methods we use to get those high yields, like using tons of chemical fertilizers, can really put that living soil under an incredible amount of stress.
So this is where the science comes in. The researchers in this study, they wanted to get past all the opinions and just get a really clear, scientific answer to the question, what are these fertilizers really doing to the life in our soil?
And the way they did it was super clever. They decided to focus on something called soil enzymes. The best way to think about these is like they're a report card for soil health. As the authors say right here, these enzymes do all the heavy lifting of breaking stuff down and making nutrients available. So if you measure their activity, you get a pretty good idea of how healthy the whole system is. Okay, so let's peek inside the lab and see how they actually set this whole thing up. It was a really well-designed experiment, done under controlled conditions in a greenhouse so they could get the clearest answers possible.
So here's the game plan. They took 3 different kinds of soil, with different textures, and for each soil type, they set up 3 pots. One got organic fertilizer, just farmyard manure. The second got a standard chemical fertilizer, and the third got nothing at all. That was their control. Then they just sat back and measured what happened to the enzymes. It's a beautifully simple and really powerful way to test this.
Now, before we get to the results, you've got to meet the team. The easiest way to wrap your head around these enzymes is to just think of them as a crew of microscopic workers. Each one has a very specific, very important job.
First up on the crew, you've got urease. This is the nitrogen specialist. Its whole job is to take nitrogen compounds that plants can't use and turn them into a form they can absorb. Basically, without urease doing its thing, plants would starve for nitrogen.
All right, next worker on the team is phosphatase. This one is the phosphorus unlocker. See, plants also need phosphorus, but a lot of it is locked up in the soil. Well, phosphatase has the key. It unlocks that phosphorus and makes it available to the plant.
And finally, we've got dehydrogenase. Think of this one as the general health inspector for the entire soil community. Its activity level tells you how much life is happening down there overall. If dehydrogenase activity is high, it means the whole microscopic city is thriving.
So, the stage is set, we've met the workers. What happened when the different fertilizers were added to the soil? Well, the researchers collected all the data, and the results, they're pretty eye-opening. Let's check out the report card.
We're going to start with urease, our nitrogen specialist. How did this little worker react to the different fertilizers?
Whoa! Okay, in the clay soil, the results are just crystal clear. The chemical fertilizer, yeah, it gave a nice boost compared to doing nothing, but look at the organic manure. It sparked the highest activity of all. That's a clear win.
Okay, so that's the story for nitrogen. But what about our phosphorus unlocker phosphatase? Are we going to see the same thing?
You bet we are. Look at this. For the silty loam soil, the chemical fertilizer barely made a difference. But that organic fertilizer, once again, it prompted a much, much bigger response. A significant jump in activity. The data is pretty clear about which one gets the workers more excited.
And now for the main event. This isn't about one specific nutrient. This is the big one, the overall health inspector, dehydrogenase. This tells us how the entire microbial world is doing.
And this is just wow. This might be the most dramatic result in the whole study. In the sandy soil, the chemical fertilizer gave a small boost, sure. But the organic fertilizer, it caused a massive surge in activity. That's a 59% jump in overall microbial life compared to the soil with nothing added. That is a huge difference. So the verdict from the lab is pretty much undeniable. Sure, both fertilizers were better than nothing,
But consistently, across all the different soils and for all three enzymes, the organic farmyard manure just sparked way more biological life.
So what's the big takeaway here? Why does this difference in enzyme activity actually matter? Well, it points to a totally fundamental difference in what these two types of fertilizers are actually doing.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Chemical fertilizers are basically a direct meal for the plant. Think of it like a quick energy drink. It gives you a fast boost for immediate growth. But organic fertilizers, that's like preparing a huge, nutritious feast for the entire soil ecosystem. You're feeding all those microscopic workers, not just the plant.
And when you feed that whole community, you get all these amazing side benefits. The nutrients get cycled better naturally. The soil holds on to water more effectively. It's more resilient. You're actually building a healthier system, increasing its fertility for the long haul. You're investing in the soil itself.
So all this research kind of leaves us with one final, pretty big question to think about. Are we treating our soil like a factory where we just pump in raw materials to get a product out? Or are we treating it like a living garden, something we have to feed and nurture so it can stay healthy and productive for years and years to come?